Listen carefully. When certain behaviors begin appearing out of nowhere after your partner gets home, they may point to something much deeper happening behind the scenes. No matter how much trust exists in a relationship, the truth is that people rarely hide things perfectly forever. Changes eventually start showing. Daily routines shift. Emotional energy feels different. Small habits become inconsistent. And often the little details reveal far more than any explanation ever could. Today we're going to discuss several behaviors that many men brush aside, while others view them as possible indicators that honesty may no longer be present in the relationship. Stay with me until the end, because when you start connecting these behaviors together, the overall picture can become very difficult to ignore. The first sign is an immediate need to clean up the moment she arrives home. Think about it for a second. If she walks through the door and instantly heads straight for the bathroom, changes her clothes, brushes her teeth, washes up, or takes a shower before even spending a few moments with you, that sudden urgency can naturally raise questions, especially if this wasn't part of her routine before. Maybe in the past she would come home, sit beside you, talk about her day, relax for a while, or simply enjoy being at home first. But now everything seems rushed and unusually structured, almost as if she's trying to leave everything from outside behind before settling in. Naturally, there are often reasonable explanations. Maybe she feels dirty from work. Maybe the weather was uncomfortable. Maybe she simply wants to freshen up. Those explanations can absolutely be legitimate. However, when the behavior becomes constant, when the timing repeatedly feels unusual, or when she avoids physical closeness immediately after arriving, it's understandable why doubts begin to form. Pay attention to the overall behavior. Does she avoid a hug? Does she keep a noticeable distance at first? Does she appear uncomfortable when you get close? Sometimes the concern isn't the shower itself. It's the sudden change in behavior surrounding it. People who feel the need to hide something often become unusually focused on controlling small details. The second sign is unexplained exhaustion. This one is particularly important because it's easy to overlook. If she starts coming home every day looking emotionally drained, immediately collapses onto the couch or bed, and constantly talks about being exhausted in a way that feels different from her normal fatigue, something in her life may have shifted, especially if her workload or daily schedule hasn't changed significantly. In the past, she may have had enough energy to enjoy conversations, share meals, laugh together, or spend quality time with you. Now she seems disconnected from everything around her. Her tiredness feels deeper, almost emotional, rather than physical. Watch the body language as well. Does she move slowly? Avoid eye contact? Become irritated when asked simple questions? End conversations quickly? Go to sleep unusually early? These details matter. Of course, exhaustion alone proves nothing. Stress, personal struggles, work pressure, and emotional burnout can affect anyone. But when extreme fatigue begins appearing alongside secrecy, emotional withdrawal, and unexplained changes in routine, many people start feeling that something is off. Also, notice the emotional atmosphere. Genuine tiredness usually feels open and natural, but when exhaustion is mixed with nervousness, avoidance, or guilt, interactions often carry a different kind of tension. It's as though the person wants to avoid deeper connection altogether. The third sign involves unexpected changes in appearance before coming home. Imagine this situation. She arrives home looking unusually refreshed. Her hair seems freshly washed. There's a different scent on her. Her appearance looks oddly reset, despite the fact that her day supposedly followed a normal routine. At first glance, the explanation may seem completely harmless. Maybe she stopped somewhere. Maybe she wanted to feel clean. Maybe the weather made her uncomfortable. But sometimes certain details don't line up with the story being told. Perhaps there was no obvious reason for the sudden freshening up. Maybe she wasn't carrying extra clothing. Maybe she becomes noticeably cautious about physical closeness when she gets home. Again, the concern isn't one isolated event. It's inconsistency. People naturally notice when established routines suddenly change without a clear explanation, and often when someone feels guilty about something, they focus heavily on controlling physical details while forgetting that emotional behavior is much harder to manage. That's when nervousness begins speaking louder than words. Another behavior worth watching is increased defensiveness. Individuals who are hiding something frequently react strongly to completely normal questions. You ask where they were, and irritation appears immediately. You ask why they got home later than usual, and suddenly you receive a long, emotional explanation. You point out a small inconsistency, and instead of calmly clarifying it, they become defensive or upset. Why does this happen? Because pressure changes behavior, and guilt often creates pressure. One of the biggest mistakes people make is dismissing their intuition when several small changes begin happening at the same time. Maybe each behavior seems harmless on its own. Maybe every explanation sounds reasonable individually. But when you start seeing reduced affection, increased secrecy, changed routines, emotional distance, defensiveness, avoidance of eye contact, and a growing obsession with privacy all at once, the pattern becomes harder to ignore. Relationships rarely break down because of one dramatic moment. More often, the truth reveals itself through repeated behavioral patterns that gradually become impossible to overlook. Now, it's important to understand something. None of these signs automatically prove betrayal. Healthy relationships require communication, trust, emotional maturity, and honest conversations. Stress, depression, personal challenges, and emotional struggles can create many of the same behaviors discussed here. That's why making accusations without evidence can damage a relationship faster than suspicion ever could. At the same time, completely ignoring major behavioral changes isn't always wise either. The smartest approach is to remain calm, communicate openly, and focus on long-term consistency rather than reacting emotionally to a single event. Because while words can be carefully controlled, habits often reveal what people are trying to keep hidden. And when someone's behavior changes dramatically, there is usually a reason behind that change. If you've watched this far, you've already learned something that many people overlook. The smallest details often uncover the biggest truths. Have you ever experienced a situation where your instincts were warning you long before the facts became clear? Have you noticed behaviors like these in someone close to you? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if this video gave you a new perspective on trust, relationships, and hidden behavior, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss upcoming content. Because here, we discuss the realities that most people notice, but few are willing to talk about openly.